Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the October 12th Finance Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member
Here. Here.
Covert.
Here.
Why are you zooming in?
Yes.
And for what's the reason this week?
Member Chaplin, I emailed you last night along with Member Krajewski. I believe the state's attorney had stated that an email is sufficient enough.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it last night.
Yes, and it's the responsibility of the chair to announce that the reason of why a committee member is zooming in.
I'm looking up the email. I don't see it right yet. Hold on.
I sent it to you last night at about 10:30. So it is a family emergency, childcare.
Okay.
I'd appreciate if you could announce that at every meeting because the schedule won't change for the kids. You're procedurally required to do so.
Okay, hold on a minute, please. Okay, Member Covert is requesting to join remotely due to a family emergency for childcare. Can I have a motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, continue with the attendance, sorry.
Member Covert.
Here.
Member Desart. Member DeCiani. Member Eckhoff. Member Garcia. Here. Member Hart. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Pachalski. Member Renahan. Member Rutledge. Here. Member Schwarzy. Member Salmon. Member Tornatore.
Here.
Member Zay.
Okay, we have a quorum. Thank you. I'm advised we do not have any public comment. Okay, with that, I'll move on to my remarks. On today's agenda, you'll find 3 appropriation resolutions for your consideration. These appropriations have been discussed at our July special call finance budget workshop and recently were announced in the chairman's budget address to the county board. There's the $7.3 million for the Tyler property tax software, $3 million for the vehicle replacement fund, and $2.5 million for the county infrastructure fund. For the memo from Jeff Martinowitz, the reason for the separate appropriations is to fund important capital projects using projected surplus for the fiscal year 2021. So rather than increasing the balance in the general fund, the money can be used to fund these expenditures, and that's what you'll see on the agenda. I want to thank Jeff Martinowitz for his forward-thinking approach and the implementation of these 3 funds, which will allow the county to plan for future capital improvements and take stress off the general fund. Also on today's agenda, you'll see an allocation for the DuPage Foundation to administer the ARPA nonprofit grant program in the amount of $10,600,000. This item was came out of the HHS committee on October 5th to have placed on today's agenda. I'd also want to thank Mary Keating and Member Renahan for working with the DuPage Foundation in creating this new private-public partnership. The DuPage Foundation has the expertise to administer the grant program, which will allow the county to fulfill our commitment to get immediate funding to our local nonprofits and people who depend on their services. And just for your information, on the agenda under old business, you'll see budget discussion. So I've asked that we put that item on the agenda until the budget's approved. This way, if any board members have questions, please feel free to ask those questions under that section of the agenda. And I think it's important that we have that open dialogue on the budget. And also, just talking with Nick this morning, we are planning to schedule a special call for the ARPA funds before November 1st. And with that, we have our presentation from our health insurance providers. Live. Chris Boucher would be joining us. Morning, Chris.
Thank you, Ms. Chaplin, and good morning to the members of the county board. It's good to be with you again, just 2 weeks removed from our last conversation on the county's 2022 employee benefits renewal. You will recall from my last visit, I shared that absent of any program changes, whether it be plan design or employee contribution adjustments, absent of any changes, costs are projected to increase from 2021 to 2022 by 1.6%, approximately $382,000. We subsequently stepped through two cost reduction alternatives, which were recommended by members of the county's internal healthcare work group. And after reviewing those options, discussion ensued. Myself and the rest of your Marsh team, along with the internal healthcare work group, we reconvened last week, and per your instructions, we have brought forth refined options, which I will be sharing with you today. The first of which concerns the medical opt-out bonus. Now, historically, coverage opt-out bonuses have been leveraged by employers to incentivize their participants to leave their employer-sponsored health plan. And the thought process is, if our employees have a choice between our plan, perhaps a spouse's plan, or maybe a plan that they can purchase individually, if we give them money to waive our coverage, perhaps they will. And the thought is, if they waive our coverage, the opt-out bonus we pay will surely be less than the cost had the employee and their family, if applicable, had they stayed on our medical plan. But as I mentioned in the memo that was released last week, the national prevalence of these opt-out programs has decreased over the last 10 years. 21% prevalence back in 2011 compared to 12% prevalence today. And the reason that is because over time, employers have realized that the reason employees are waiving coverage isn't because they're provided with an opt-out bonus, not usually, but instead they're waiving coverage because those employees have a better coverage option, usually with their spouse. And so applying that school of thought, employees are waiving coverage for reasons other than the opt-out bonus, that school of thought. We propose two potential options for the future of the county's medical opt-out bonus program. Option 1A, bottom left corner, proposes to reduce the monthly bonus by half, so $50 to $25 per month, which based on current opt-out participation will generate about $108,000 of cost avoidance for the county. Or option 1B, which is new, and it proposes to eliminate the medical opt-out bonus program entirely, which will yield annual savings of roughly $217,000. It's one or the other. The next series of options concern the county's medical employee contributions. In other words, the amount employees pay pre-tax through payroll to participate in the health plan. I shared 2 weeks ago that the county's employee contributions have increased only once since 2017. And at that time, last time we got together, we looked at one option, a 3% increase to all four medical plan options for 2022. Today, I've brought for your review two less impactful employee contribution alternatives: a 1% adjustment, which will produce $66,000 of additional payroll contribution revenue for the county, and a 2% adjustment, which will net the county an additional $132,000 per year. And to make those contribution options real, on page 4, we illustrate the pre-tax monthly and annual impact to employees for all of the plans and all of the coverage tiers. And I've gone ahead and highlighted in yellow the annual high and the annual low amount impact for each of the options. 1% at the top, 2% in the middle, 3% at the bottom. And monthly on the left for each plan, annual to its right. And so that brings us to slide 5, which is where we mix and we match and summarize the options, the opt-out bonus and the medical employee contribution options. And so if we were to reduce the monthly medical opt-out bonus from $50 to $25, Again, $108,000 of cost avoidance. The county's cost increase goes from $382,000 down to $273,000, a 1.1% adjustment. If bundle 2 is adopted, eliminating the opt-out bonus in its entirety, it's a $217,000 cost avoidance. $381,000 becomes $165,000, or an increase of 0.7%. And then if we marry the two concepts together, bundles 3, 4, and 5, the savings become more significant. Bundle 3 eliminates the opt-out bonus entirely, but also adjust employee contributions by 1%, $282,000 of savings to the county. The cost increased below $100,000, or 0.4%. Bundle 4, eliminating the opt-out bonus with a 2% contribution adjustment for employees, $348,000 of savings, nearly cost neutral for the county, moving from 2021 to 2022. $33,000 increase, 0.1%. And finally, bundle 5, where we also eliminate the opt-out bonus in its entirety, but drop in the 3% adjustment. That option, or that bundle, puts the cost for the county below where they're projected to end for 2021. And so with that, I will open it up for questions from the committee.
Okay, Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I don't know if Nick is in the room. Nick, I know we are doing a wage study right now, and is part of that study a question about what we're paying in benefits versus other counties as well?
The wage study we're doing is not doing a comparison, but I do know that HR continually looks to see if we're in line with the area communities that we compete with. The salary study is looking only at salary.
And I asked that just because I think that we're already not paying our people as much as other counties, to even give them a 1% increase in fees for their benefits at this time is not a smart move for our county. Thank you.
Member Krajewski, then Member Zay, then Member Pachowski. Go ahead, Member Krajewski.
Again, I know we had a lot of discussion last week on this. 1.6% increase from last year is not a big increase as far as what our projection is going to be. I just don't see how we pass anything on to increase in the employees, especially how we're doing this year. I mean, we're going to get the report, I think, in the next day or two from Jeff. That's going to show just this last month, another $2 million for the month above our projection, on top of the $3 million last month. I mean, $5 million last 2 months is our sales tax is over budget. I mean, we've got cash coming in, great. It's a great year, but to pass on 1%, which is whatever, 100,000 or 200,000 to the employees is nuts. I mean, we can always pass the cost on when things are in a bad time for us. We can do that in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But right now, I don't see why. I mean, we should be able to absorb 300,000 easily into our budget, just with the way things are going currently. Now, it could downtrend next year, the year after, but not now. So I'm not for options 3, 4, and 5. I don't care maybe about the opt-out with the medical card, but I won't support any of those other ones.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple questions. I mean, a lot of people, or statements by board members, I think we pay a lot of insurance. What's the county share last year? 26 million, 25 million that we paid? And what do the employees pay? I think it's around 6.
I can respond to that question, Mr. Zay. The total cost of healthcare in 2021 is projected at 32.5 million, of which 24.4 is absorbed by the county. The other 8 million picked up by the county employees.
Okay. So when we say we don't have good benefits or anything else, I'd have to kind of disagree at that point. I think we have been doing a very good job with insurance. And again, when we're talking about doing transfers and stuff and surplus and everything else today, after looking at this, I mean, all these benefits are pre-taxed. If we're not looking at hurting anybody, not taking away medical opt-out, not doing anything, after looking at this, maybe we do absorb the 381,000. What's the fund? What's the balance fund in the insurance fund that we have, that we've been working hard to maintain over the last several years? $4 million. So we have $4 million in reserves in the insurance fund. Okay, thank you.
Member Zay, Member Pachowski?
I agree with what we've said, was stated by members Krajewski and Zay. I also feel we should not increase it. And my question was, where are we going to get the money from? If we have medical reserves that have a surplus, then that's where it ought to go. My only question is, Nick, there's a comment made, we're not paying what other counties are paying. Is that a correct statement, or is that, I'm confused by that. And it bothers me that if we are below what the other collar counties are paying, I'm hearing it for the first time.
So this is the salary analysis that all of the departments are doing right now. And we are looking to make sure that we're comparable to the other collar counties, other municipalities around us. And we are finding there are some portions of our job classifications that are underpaid. Some are being paid fairly, some are being paid above market. And that's what we're trying to ascertain right now, and then report back to the board later this year.
But wouldn't all counties have that? And I'm sure that there's, every county has exactly what you said. Some is lower, some is higher, and some's about the same.
Yeah.
So that doesn't surprise me, but it should be within a acceptable percentage. And that's what's concerning me. Are we below what should be acceptable to a majority of our employees? And if so, when did this occur? Because I always thought we'd be paid fairly well compared to other counties. And if we are not at what would be a substantial percentage, which I don't know what that number is, it's bothersome to me as a board member.
I will tell you that the job market has become extremely dynamic the last 12 to 18 months with, a real difficulty finding the employees to do it. So a lot of the different collar counties are paying whatever it takes to get those in. And that's the last 12 to 18. But your answer is that there is a portion that is severely underpaid.
Oh, yeah, but then I think we need to look at other options, maybe a sign-on bonus or other forms of compensation, which we've discussed at our public collective bargaining meetings. And maybe that's an issue we need to address. So it's not the compensation, it's a bonus due to the market where it's at right now, and nobody's able to find employees.
And we, to Nick's point, we do, Mr. Pachowski, we are always looking at salaries and wages. We have, a lot of bargaining units. So that in and of itself requires that we are constantly looking at the market. And so when you look at collar counties and you look at jobs, you look at, all the aspects that make up the position. And so we have a few, but if you recall a couple of years ago, when they were looking at changing the exemption limit, and we came to you, and we only had a handful of people who, as exempt employees, were going to be below that threshold, which was a testament to just how our wages have kept up with the market. But there are some positions that have lagged. Some of those positions cross over into bargaining units. So you're hesitant to look outside of the bargaining unit and inside the bargaining unit while you're at the bargaining table. So those kind of things, I've been here now a little over 10 years. When I came here, we had 3 collective bargaining units. Now we have upwards of 10. So that changes how you look at compensation when you look at it, what positions as they cross over. But we have maintained a competitive edge. And you look at job descriptions, it's not just a wage to wage. You look at the size, you look at the size of the department. There's been places where we've seen people who do similar jobs that make more, but there's only one of them, and we have 6 of those jobs. So those kind of things go into looking at wages, not just a position to position or compensation to compensation comparison.
So some classifications we're overpaying, some we are with the average, and some we are maybe under, but we can't categorically say that it's all. So
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I will tell you, this is a department head driven. All of the department heads are working together to do the market analysis, to do the cross comparisons for departments. So we're hoping to have a comprehensive report to this to this committee probably in November.
All right, thank you. And I think that $381,000 should come out of reserves, and we should not put it on the backs of our employees as proposed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have member Schwarzy, member Renahan, and then member Ozak.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Chair. So with regards to option two, the opt-out entirely, saving $216,000, to me, that's a no-brainer. But my question would be, Chris, would that savings be offset, do you think, by more employees jumping onto the?
Yeah, well, that's the risk you run. Absolutely. It is the assumption that we have made incorrect in that employees are not necessarily waiving coverage because of the opt-out bonus. And therefore, if we were to eliminate the opt-out bonus, will they return to the plan? We don't believe that they will, but that is the risk that you run.
Okay, well, and so in my opinion, to me, that would be an easy option too. And I agree with some of the other members saying that I don't want to put this money, the extra money on the back of the employees. So,
Thank you, member Schwarzy. Member Renahan?
Thank you. I gotta say, I'm disappointed because the option of eliminating the opt-out to me is just not sophisticated at all. I mean, we're asking 361 employees to give up $600 a year. I mean, that's college books. That's a weekend away. I mean, I think taking those people for granted is a mistake. So I'm against eliminating the opt-out. We already went from $100 to 50, and then now we're going to go to 0. I think that it's disrespecting those employees. I mean, if we were ever to look at that, I think those people should be grandfathered in. $600 is not nothing to people. And like I said, I'm just disappointed. That is, to me, it's a no-brainer option because it's a poor option.
Thank you, member Renahan, and member Ozak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First of all, in my previous experience on the Glenbard School Board, I recall 6, 7, 8%. I can't recall right off the top of my head, but a 1.6% increase overall is fantastic. And I really think that in light of that, especially when you look at a $4 million reserve, I think we can manage this cost. On top of member Renahan's column, $600 is a month of premiums, depending on what your family situation is. So I think we just, we can handle the $381 increase and then really enjoy the fact that it's a 1.6% increase. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments from anybody on the committee here? Okay, so I'm guessing the consensus is to absorb all of the costs this year and revisit this next year, but we're going to leave everything the same. Is that the consensus of the committee? Okay, great. Staff, you have your direction? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for all your work and time. Thank you. Okay. Okay, and with that, we will move on to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, September 28th? We have a motion by member Wachowski, a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FAR 045521? Budget transfers from various companies and accounting units. We have a motion by member Wachowski and a second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. That we move on to consent. Can I have a motion for the consent items? A, B, C, D, E, and F. We have a motion by, I'm sorry, who was that? Member Zay and a second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We have procurement requisitions. We have Health and Human Services, member Renahan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I move approval of HHSP 38921, approval contract to Well Sky Corporation for renewal of annual homeless management information system software cloud services, November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022, not to exceed $34,180.91.
By member Renahan, a second by member Covert. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of HHSP 38821, contract to AMS Mechanical Systems for steam generator replacement for the period through November 30th, 2022, not to exceed $548,086.55.
Okay, we have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member DeCiani. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Member Renahan.
I move approval of change order FIP 402A-20, amendment to resolution FIP 402-20, issued to Rock, Fusco, and Connolly LLC for consultation, collective bargaining, December 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2021, increasing $40,000.
Okay, we have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member Garcia. Member Zay, do you have a question?
Yes, we get a lot of emails and messages from the employees over there. Can we get an update on where in the next month or so, where negotiations are at this point? Because it kind of leaves us in a bad situation here.
Yeah, we can definitely get that.
An executive session.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question and comment. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Member Renahan, JPS, take it away.
All right, thank you. I move approval of JPSP 37821, contract purchase order to Public Safety Direct for upfitting and repairs of the sheriff's office vehicles and monthly maintenance, 10/30/2021 to 10/29/2022, not to exceed 260,000.
Okay, we have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member DeCiani. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Renahan.
Thank you. I move approval of JPSP 37721, approval of contract purchase order to William G. Rorabeck, attorney at law, conflict attorney for the court, November 1st, 2021 through 10/31/2022, not to exceed 44,000. Sorry.
We have a motion by member Renahan, a second by member DeCiani. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you so much, member Renahan. We move on to item C, Public Works, member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 038621. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to S&I Solutions Incorporated to furnish and deliver de-icing solids, eco-salt for facilities management grounds, period November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022 for a contract total amount not to exceed $87,720 per renewal option under bid award, third and final option to renew.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of FMP 038521. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Builders Chicago Corporation to provide preventative maintenance, service and repairs for overhead doors, roll-up shutters, gate operators, dock levelers, and revolving doors as needed for county facilities for facilities management for a 2-year period, November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2023 for a total contract amount not to exceed $192,520 per renewal option, final option to renew.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Excuse me, any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move for approval of FMP 038721. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Illini Power Products Company for semi-annual inspection, preventative maintenance, and emergency call-out service for campus backup emergency generators for the 2-year period, November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2023, for a contract total amount not to exceed $119,338 per renewal option under bid award, first and final option to renew.
We have a motion by member Ozog, a second by member Garcia. Questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Ozog. We move on to stormwater, member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 37621, an intergovernmental agreement to DuPage County and Bloomingdale Township for Cloverdale Road Culvert Maintenance Project, not to exceed 30,000.
We have a motion by member Zay, a second by member Schwarzy. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Zay. We move on to transportation, member Pachowski.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I would move to approve DTP 390-2 on a contract with RM Chin and Associates for professional construction engineering services for the reconstruction of the Divisional Transportation's off-site maintenance facility and owner's representative support services for a contract not to exceed $999,947.58 for professional engineering service based on a qualifications-based process in compliance with Illinois Local Government Professional Services Selection Act.
We have a motion by member Potowski, a second by member Zay. Questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Potowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move to approve DTR 381A18 amendment to a resolution issued to Burbank Commercial Services for the 2018 sidewalk improvements section to decrease enclosed funding in the amount of $48,208.47, resulting in a final cost of $359,306.33, a decrease of 11.83%.
We have a motion by member Potowski, a second by member Zay. Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you, member Potowski.
Thank you.
We move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I make a motion to combine items A, B, and C, which are additional appropriation resolutions.
Okay, we have a motion to combine. Is there a second? Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on to approve FIR 0440-21 additional appropriation for the Sheriff's Basic Correctional Officer Training. FIR 0442-21 resolution additional appropriation for the Federal Law Enforcement Treasury Fund. And last FIR 0446-21 resolution acceptance appropriation of the Victims of Crime Act.
We have a motion. We have a by member Krajewski, second by member Potowski. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0449-21 resolution, which is a correction of a Scribner's error, and FIR 0433-21, the amendment to the agreement with Choose DuPage to administer our Reinvest DuPage Small Business Grant Program.
We have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Selman. Questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine items E, F, and G, which are authorization to transfer and appropriate additional money from our general fund to our county infrastructure funds.
We have a motion by member Krajewski and a second by member Selman to combine items E, F, and G. There's a question. Go ahead, member Say.
Yeah, I wonder if Jeff could come up and explain this a little more. You know, since I've been here, we always talk about capital being used out of reserves, one-time capital. I mean, what we're using it now is for infrastructure, for capital, when it takes away our flexibility, having extra sales tax. I mean, I'm not in agreement with the chairman's budget. You know, the sheriff is only getting 2 additional people. This is where we should be getting and putting additional people in was additional sales tax money and using one-time capital out of our reserves, which is over 100 million right now. So this really takes away our flexibility. I mean, I'd like to see the sheriff's department get possibly 10 more people, and that would be the fund where we would take it out of. Now you're taking that option out of my hands because we're using it for Tyler, we're using it for vehicles, using for everything else, which is capital, which is one time, which has always been the policy of this board is to use reserves for one-time capital. Now we're changing because we have extra money. Now we're changing that and taking away the board's flexibility.
So the premise of these resolutions for this year was to increase sales tax because we have such a large variance. So we would use these separate appropriations to be funded out to help fund these capital items because the surplus is being generated specifically because of the high sales tax returns. So if the board would choose to just change the resolutions to take it out of fund balance or reserve, we can do that too. At the end of the year, it's really the same thing. Our ending surplus will stay the same, whether we increase sales tax or take it out of reserve. It's just, I'll call it a matter of semantics. It is different. Our thought was because in future years, we'll look at sales tax budget to budget. You know, the variance is so out of balance right now because the returns, the revenue is so much higher that increasing sales tax through this appropriation process budgetarily would make sense, but it's really a matter of how the board wants to do it.
But we're not going to use any of this before this year, right? Before this year's budget's up?
We're going to transfer the money. If the board approves it, we would transfer it, but the transfer technically would come out of reserve. But we just want to increase sales tax through this process.
Okay, so like I said, semantics. So we're gonna have this money anyways. So we're not gonna use it in 2021, but we're gonna put it in the budget anyways, in 2021. We're not gonna use it in 2021. We're gonna transfer it to 2022.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the year, all that additional revenue is going to fall to the bottom line, reserve fund balance. So you're really doing the same thing.
Doesn't matter.
Does that answer your question, Member Zay?
It does.
Okay, okay. And Member Krajewski?
Well,
And
just
the-
say, can we just vote on the combined?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, can we vote on the combining and then ask more
No,
questions?
I don't want to combine it.
Okay, so we have, do we have the motion in the second on the combined? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay, those
Thank-
items are
Thank you,
combined.
Madam Chair. Now I move on FIR 0451-21, which is authorization to transfer into the county infrastructure fund 3 million, FIR 0452-21, which is a resolution authorizing the transfer into the general fund for the county infrastructure fund of 2.5 million. And last FIR 0453-21, which is authorization to transfer additional funds from the general fund to the county infrastructure fund for $4 million.
Okay, so we have a motion by Member Krajewski and a second by Member Garcia. Discussion. Member DeCiani.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I echo Chairman Zay's concerns about the sheriff's office. I mean, we need to be on the offense. That office has been cut by over 54 people since I've been on the board here. We lost our SR-22, our TNT attack teams for gangs and drugs. That's challenging, and we've got a ton of crime coming in this county. We need to think out of the box. We've got abilities to lease vehicles. We've got abilities to do energy performance contracting, where we could actually use the savings we're going to save on fossil fuels to pay for these vehicles and not have to come up with all this money. I think we need to start being creative here so we can add manpower and use our sales tax to add manpower versus having to come up with all this capital to buy vehicles. We lease cars in the corporate world every day. Trucks are being leased. I think we need to, at the end of the day, we need to value our dollars and try to put as many people on the street as we can to protect this county. So I have got reservations about taking all the sales tax dollars, which could be used to helping supplement our operating costs and buying capital, which we could buy in other ways by using savings in energy.
Thank you, Member DeSantis. And if we could have Jeff or Nick come up for 1 second. We did actually we did look at all of the leasing and the energy savings, correct? Earlier this year, we had many discussions. We brought in, we had a Leopardo come out and give us a presentation. And can we just elaborate on that a little bit and how what the results of that were? Because I was very interested in that as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. We looked very closely at the leasing of the fleet. We actually had the Division of Transportation do a fairly deep dive on the cost benefit of that. And their analysis came back that continuing to own the fleet was more cost productive than leasing for the leasing aspect. And we did look at it. There may be some small segments of our fleet that may make sense, but overall, it was definitely more cost per, over the long 10 years, it was far more cost effective to own. And that's what we did. And the one thing to realize, all three of these items are obligations of the county. These aren't new projects out there. They're not doing anything. One of them is paying the second Tyler tax system installment. One of them is this vehicle replacement that in 2024, we are identifying a big surge of vehicles that were purchased 10 years prior. And the other one is the county infrastructure in facilities management. And this replaces what's in the 2022 budget. So these are obligations. These are not new projects we're requesting. These are simply current obligations that we're taking care of with surplus in 2021. It actually, to a couple of the members' points, it frees up 2022 dollars to do other programs. So these are not new programs. These are obligations that we have as a county.
I get it. I just think we need to think differently on how we use our dollars. We're lump summing we're upfronting all this capital to buy vehicles. And in the business world, you don't necessarily do that. You keep your cash flow, to you want to not tie up your assets, your cash with an asset that depreciates. So again, we're upfronting this. And if we do lease, and I would assume your long-term cost would see if vehicles could be used past maybe 5 years. I'm sure with the leasing, you could do a lease buyout at the end where you're buying that piece of capital at a much lower cost than you are up front, where we're spending $3 million up front on vehicles that maybe we could spend, a fraction of the cost on if we're doing a leasing program. So
all your points are definitely well made, and I know that DOT incorporated all that, the upfront expenses, the long-term maintenance, the yearly leasing rates, the sellback on the back end, and they've looked at it a couple different ways. And from a fleet standpoint, overall, they could not get the numbers to work, but we could definitely, if this committee would like to have a presentation, we could have DOT come here and do that, but they just couldn't make the numbers work.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Member Pachowski, then Member Zay, then Member Renahan.
I remember when this came up, and I remember Chairwoman Chaplin, I had some issues with it. If we lease, there's a third party making money on it. If we do an energy savings, there's a third party making money because they're doing this for profit. So I respect my fellow commissioner, but I'm disagreeing, because if we have the money to do the energy savings, we can do it ourselves and keep that. And if we're leasing, there's somebody making money, and if we bought it, it comes to the county. So Liz and I had spent a ton of time on this, and I respectfully think that it's more advantageous for us to do it and keep those savings than to give it to a third party. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member Zay.
Jeff, what do we have left then after this 9.5? What's the surplus in the sales tax account?
$7 million.
$7 million. And yeah.
With 3 more months to come.
Okay. Member Zay, are you?
Yeah. No,
Okay, thank you. Okay, Member Renahan.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the front office for coming up with this. I think this is being creative. I mean, this is definitely out of the box from where we've been. I do agree with Member DeCiani. We have room for more creativity as we go along, and I think we're all open to that. This is an incremental approach, and it helps give us some solid footing and confidence that we are going to be able to pay for the things as they come due. So I appreciate that approach. And I just, as a footnote, I'm looking at the proposed budget right now. And, last year we had a 2021 original budget for the sheriff of 73.7 million. This year it's up 6 million to 79.8. So I just want to make sure we're clear on our facts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Renahan. Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chair Chaplin. I was going to actually talk about this at our county board under my environmental update. But with the success of our sales tax fund right now, last meeting, we talked about, Member Deacon Garcia raised the issue about whether we were looking at electric vehicles for replacements. And your comment was that we just couldn't get there. And as an environmental chairwoman, and we have terrible reports coming out about our environment. And I think that we have to get to electric vehicles in our county. And so that would be my suggestion, is that we take a hard look at those numbers. We have to start doing as leaders what we can to get to doing better for our environment right now, or in a very short time, it's going to be irreversible. So that is my comment this morning, is where are we going to start doing those little things that are going to improve our environment? So thank you for that.
Nick, does
I can respond to that. Points well made. That's actually part of our program with all new vehicles. We look at alternative fuel, electric, what are the options out there? Obviously, there's certain classes of vehicles, the heavy duty vehicles, that we can't get the performance, but absolutely every single one, that's part of the dynamic of when we look at vehicles, is that an option? And we'll continue to do that and press that even more.
Well, I guess the comment that, okay, we just couldn't get there. We had a presentation from NICOR at Environmental last week, and they were touting their success in a couple of their states that they had taken out 853 metric tons of carbon from our air, which I said, great, good job. except for the wildfires in California, added 91 million tons of carbon to our atmosphere. So all those little things that we're doing are not turning the nut to get to the point where we stop having those kind of occurrences. And so I think the time is now, and it is a dire situation. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Member Rutledge. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0454-21, resolution placing names on payroll.
I have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Selman. Discussion, questions? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0456-21, resolution allocation for DuPage Foundation to administer the ARPA nonprofit grant program amount of $10,600,000.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Renahan. Member Krajewski, you have a question?
Yes, and I think it's good that we're gonna have this administered. We're giving 10 million to not-for-profits. I have a problem with $600,000 to administer this program. Choose DuPage, we had them administer the entire business grant program under the CARES Fund. That was $135,000. I think on the ARPA fund, it was like 75,000. So they had to go through 600, 700, the first time another 700 or 800 businesses, tax returns, expenses that they spent. Comparing, I mean, there's a lot of work that had to be done in that, and they did it for 135,000. Same with the ARPA one, 75,000. I can't imagine giving this money out, 10 million to not-for-profits, creating that amount of work that was more than what Choose DuPage did.
I think we have Mary.
So-
Mary can go ahead and
So yeah,
address
Mary, if you
that.
could just explain, I mean, I don't know what could be involved that's as time consuming as what these business programs went through. And we weren't charged anywhere near that to
Sure.
administer the program.
Thank you for the question. And let me just point out one thing. So this is a two-step process. This is allocating the funding. This is basically, at this point, we're saying that the board is committing to creating a grant program for the nonprofit organizations, and we're setting aside $10.6 million. So the second step would be that we will come back with an actual agreement with DuPage Foundation that will lay out all of the specifics of how this would work. The $600,000 represents 6% of the total grant allocation. When we look at the grants that we receive as the county, our administrative costs and allowable administrative costs range anywhere from 5 to 20%. So administering a grant program to a nonprofit organization is very different than the business grant program. What we're talking about having DuPage Foundation do is create an entirely separate grant program with very specific parameters about what types of community impact we want to have. And so we'd be looking at administrative costs spread over a five-year program. So for not only is this starting of the program, doing all the evaluations of all the applicant agencies, we're talking about ongoing monitoring. We're talking about probably at least semi-annual reporting from every nonprofit that receives funding. We're talking about evaluating the program design up front. So it's not just, in addition to all of the financials, a grant program looks at, a nonprofit grant program looks at all of the financials of a nonprofit in addition to the actual programmatic side of what that nonprofit does. So that's kind of where that 6% comes from, is based on what we do as a county when we're administering funds on behalf of the state or federal government.
Well, I think maybe we need to look at this particular program on how we do it. I mean, we're giving it to non-for-profits to require them to give us quarterly updates and things like that. I know those are strings attached to other grants that, I mean, Choose DuPage had to write a grant program. They had to follow up, make sure everybody spent the money on what they did. Again, they were still able to do it at a extremely low cost. And I think if, I guess 600 is being set aside, and I guess we're getting into the contract negotiations, but maybe we look at how to administer this grant program differently that doesn't have 6% overhead in it, because it shouldn't be that different. If we're doing ourselves, we would be giving it out to not-for-profits. We gave money out the CARES funds for not-for-profits.
Right, and we spent a tremendous amount of
I
staff
understand,
time.
but that's what I'm saying. I think we need to look at how we're doing the program and how we're giving the money out to the various groups. It just seems like that's 600,000 is way over. And maybe you can meet with Choose DuPage and maybe they can give you some ideas on how they did the program at such a low cost, because they put out $36 million. I mean, it would have been 6% of that would have been astronomical.
Yeah, Member Krajewski, I think if we were providing a one-time grant to the nonprofit organizations with no expectation of significant amounts of reporting and monitoring, I think it would be a different conversation. But we're really looking, I think the point of this program is not just to provide a check to a nonprofit organization and then they give us receipts a year later. They need to be doing what is the impact to the families and the individuals that they're serving. So I'm completely open to, and I think we will be as we work with DuPage Foundation, figure out where what is the expectation for the administration. As I said, this is a two-step process. What we're saying right now is here's the funding that we're committing to setting aside. If the numbers are a little bit different, maybe they're lower in one category and higher in another, when we come through with the actual agreement with the foundation, I think that's, that all remains to be conversations to be had.
All right, well, I just think it's way high. And if I'm giving money to a not-for-profit, I think I have a more expectation that they were going to do what they were supposed to do with that money than if I gave it to a business, way to make sure that they didn't spend it for things that were outside of what it was intended for. But again, I think it's great that we're giving you 10 million. I just don't think it takes 600,000 to administer that program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. So I have Member Ozog next, Member Salmon, Member Pachowski, and then Member DeCiani. So Member Ozog, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mary. I just want to clarify, you said 600,000 is over 5 years.
Yes,
So $120,000 a year for administration.
Yes.
Administrative costs.
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
Yes, that's
And
how
with
we
a
break it.
guesstimate of maybe at least 2 staff people or something along those lines, based on what it took your staff to do.
Yes, I would say, like I said,
just
looking at it from a basic percentage. When we get funding from the state or federal government, our administrative category goes anywhere between 5 and 20%. So 6% from a grant perspective is actually a pretty low administrative cost.
And those are assigned to you. The percentages are assigned to you.
It's what we are allowed to, right? It's what we
Okay.
are allowed to spend.
Okay, thank you. But it is over the 5 years. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Member Salmon.
Thank you. Mary, I want to thank you for your creativity in coming up with the concept of this program. I could not agree more that I think $600,000 is, especially in the context of the world we're living in and how much it takes to hire folks right now, is more than reasonable. I could not be more excited and proud of our Reinvest DuPage programs, but they weren't onboarding staff for a 5-year job. They had interns, they had other individuals helping, but it wasn't, we need to hire someone to be here for years and years. That's the difference here, is we are trying to hire people with salary jobs. And, as we continue to discuss salary concerns in our own county, it's members of your office who are some of the least paid, and generally they're grant funded. This is giving an opportunity for folks who want to work in nonprofits to actually have a 5-year job and not be at basement bargain wages. I think it's no shock that generally those who work in foundations and nonprofits are women. And I think that's generally why we think that those are just the lowest wages. This must be an easy job, especially compared to business. And that could not be farther from the case when you're trying to administer food services, domestic shelter, relief. It's important work and it deserves proper compensation. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
just
you,
to be
Member
clear,
Salmon.
DuPage Foundation would be bringing on additional staff, probably programmatic staff, as well as some level of financial staff.
Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Mary. Is this paid? Is more time spent on grant writing or monitoring the grant itself? Those are the 2 components that were mentioned. And I was curious, and is that paid on an hourly basis? And when I have an engineering contract, I have a senior engineer and architect, and it breaks all the way down on an hourly basis. Is that how this is done the same way? Because somebody who's at the high end gets X and somebody on the low end gets 1/3 of X. Is that similar to what I see in transportation issues?
So, yeah, I think that will be remain to be seen. As I said, we'll need to be coming back with the actual agreement for DuPage Foundation. This is this action today is to declare the county's intent to set aside these funds and to enter into a partnership with DuPage Foundation. So the specifics of how the billing, how the reimbursement would work would yet to come. Typically, and your first question was grant writing. The DuPage Foundation would not be writing any grants. They would be creating a grant program, reviewing applications, evaluating those applications, recommending which agencies should get funding based on their proposed program designs. So one of the things that you do when you're looking and evaluating nonprofits is something called their logic model. What is the issue that they're seeking to serve, to solve? How do they propose to solve it? What are their anticipated outcomes? How many people will they serve? What will be the impact of the programs on the individuals they serve? So it's a very sophisticated logic model that you have to evaluate for every organization that you're evaluating. So you would in a foundation setting, or if for in our settings here internally, there are different levels of staff that have different work. So you'd have your most highly qualified grant management staff would be doing the evaluation process. You might have somebody from more of a finance perspective who's actually doing the request for payments, doing the reimbursements, looking at receipts for the nonprofits that are requesting reimbursement for the grant. You're going to have somebody who's doing the evaluation and reporting, because remember that DuPage Foundation will also need to be collecting all the information from all the nonprofits and submitting it to our finance staff, who will then have to report all that information back to Treasury. So they're acting on the county's behalf in terms of collecting all of the data that's needed, because the county has an obligation to report that information back to Treasury.
So this is a not to exceed 600,000, and is it quarterly? Because I'm hearing what Mr. Krajewski is saying. They're not getting a flat 600,000. They have to come in front of somebody and justify what they're getting, correct? We're not just giving them a check for 600 for this program. It's based on what they've done, who's done it, and how we've accepted whatever resolution they've presented regarding compensation. Is that correct?
Right. There would have to be some level of justification of the expense, just like any other agreement that we enter into for any kind of nonprofit organization. There would need to be evidence of expenditures. Again, that's all details that we will work out in the agreement with DuPage Foundation.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Pachowski. Member DeCiani.
I was just concerned as Member Krajewski as far as making sure our nonprofits get most of this money, and is using the public-private partner a better way than using their own staff. I often hear our staff isn't paid enough. We hire more staff or pay our existing staff more money to help you with this, Mayor.
So, yeah, if we had the internal capacity to manage this program, we would do it internally. We absolutely 100% do not have the capacity to do it internally. If you'll recall, the Department of Community Services is getting $91 million in all kinds of different grant programs above and beyond the $179 million that the county is getting. People who manage, professional grant managers, they don't exist out in the wild. If they did, we would hire them. We would hire them all day long in our community development division. DuPage Foundation is the organization within the county that has the most similar workforce to our internal community development division. So it's a matter of using probably a fair amount of my time, a fair amount of the time of the program manager, the director of programs for the DuPage Foundation, and them hopefully being able to bring on some additional staff. So it's going to be a combination. I'll be heavily involved in it for sure. But in terms of doing this internally, I wish we had the capacity. I wish we had experienced grant managers who had access, who had the capacity to take on a brand new program, but we just don't.
DuPage Foundation is a very respectable and respected foundation here in the county. So I understand that, and I get that. if they take 6% of the 90 million, we're talking almost $5.4 million or am I
No,
getting it
no,
wrong?
it's 6% of the, it's
Of
a
the-
$10 million grant program from the 179.
Right.
So of 179 million, the county is setting aside 10.6 for this specific grant program. I'm talking about in terms of our internal capacity, we are already well overtaxed with all the additional.
With the other
funding that
issues. So we're not having to use them for any of that.
No.
Okay, I'm good.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member DeCiani. Member Renahan.
Yeah, just one quick thing. You know what? I appreciate everyone's questions on this. You know, as chair of HHS, I certainly came to Mary with all those same questions. You know, why so much money? You know, how long? Everything. Why give it to them instead of doing it internally? And it is really a question of capacity. We have partnered with IDA on rental assistance. It has gone wonderfully. And we've been able to get probably more money out to more people faster than if we would have tried to reinvent the wheel here. So I expect the same success with DuPage Foundation, and I'm very excited that Mary came forward with this.
Thank you. And just to point out, the IDA, who's administering the rental assistance program on our behalf, is that's an 8% administrative. We are allowed 10% through Treasury. We kept 2% and 8% goes to IDA.
Yeah. And any Member Krajewski.
Just last, you know, we could give 100 million, 200 million out in DuPage County to various not-for-profits. Are we going to have a little bit of input? You said that they're going to write this program on where some of these not-for-profits should be going to food pantries, homeless shelters, domestic violence. I mean, they're writing a program and they're going to see what benefits and they're going to make a decision where it's going. Shouldn't we have some input from our board? Because we could give out 100 million to not-for-profits that we'd like to see some of it go to the food pantries or and give it to them and then let them write the.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the agreement with the DuPage Foundation, my vision of the agreement is that this board would decide what are the highest priorities. So is it food pantries? Is it
That's fine.
housing?
You said they were writing the that and who was going to benefit the most, et cetera. I just thought that's fine. They're
Right.
getting
Yeah.
done.
No, I
Okay.
believe this board should identify the priorities.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing that. Mary, thank you so much for your answering the questions and everybody's questions. And again, thanks so much. I think this is going to be a great program. And I'm really excited to see how it all works out. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, okay, well, I guess we all in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last, I move on FICO 0505-20 recommendation for the approval of an amendment to a resolution FIP 0234-20 for an agreement with the Sotos Law Firm to provide additional professional legal services as a special state's attorney.
Okay, we have a motion by Member Krajewski, a second by Member Covert. Discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We move on to informational. Member Krajewski.
I move to receive and place on file informational items, A, payment of claims, B, grant proposal notifications.
We have a motion by Member Krajewski to receive and place on file items A and B. And who was the second? Second, Member Rutledge. Any questions? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Member Krajewski. We move on to old business. Do we have any questions? Member Colbert, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Just really quick before the budget discussion on the agenda. I just wanted to just get on the record that I will be zooming in to 8 a.m. meetings, my own 8 a.m. meetings, which includes JPS and finance due to the family emergency childcare exception. I've emailed you a few times before. I do drop off my kids at 8 a.m. So that will not change, and nor will my parenting priority. I just take issue with when you said with a very extremely disrespectful tone that what is it this time, Member Covert? Well, this time it's the same thing. It's dropping off my kids at 8 a.m. And that will continue till the summer. But I just find that tone, Chair Chaplin, very disrespectful to mothers and women. I am a representative of mothers here on the county board, and I am a woman. So when you take that tone and when you say, what is it this time, it has a lot of implications. And you're not only taking a shot at me, but you are taking a shot at all the mothers that I represent on the county board. So I did send an email to you last night. It is your responsibility as a chairwoman to check your emails every morning. And I did request that you also, let everybody know that you are procedurally required to do that. I am not, when you're taking a vote call on the Zoom meeting. And you didn't follow procedure, you didn't check my email. And you kind of implied a lot with just one statement, one question, what is it this time?
Yes.
So, so I just would ask you to just, work diligently, check your email every morning, know the rules. And also, and not essentially tell other women that there is no room for mothers to hold public office. So I'm a professional woman and I'm not lazy, I'm here. And the only way for me to be here on time would be to Zoom in, and thank God for our governor creating that exception who understands women. So I would just appreciate that same courtesy from you as a mother and a woman to another. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Covert. And I'm sorry, I did not see your email at 10:30 last night. I was sleeping, and I get here very early on Tuesday mornings. I go and I'd speak with Dana, I talk with Nick. So I did not check my emails before 7 o'clock when I was here. But I would like to mention that I understand your predicament, because I also, when my kids were in school, I had to drop 3 kids off at 3 different schools and be to work at 8 o'clock. And I didn't have the option to be late. And I know there are employees here that are mothers that have to be to their job on time. They don't have the option of Zooming in. And in a way, I think it's disrespectful of you taking advantage of Zoom when other employees at this county don't have that same option. So I really hope that you can get your childcare situation taken care of. I think it's important that you're here. And, if I said something that, it is a little bit frustrating, because every week now we've had an issue with you being late. And I do understand, and I understand the predicament.
I'm on Zoom on time.
Yes, you were Zoom on time. Yes, you were to Zoom on time.
Yes.
But also the issue of Zooming in your car while you're driving is a little bit of a concern as well. So, and I know we do have an Illinois distracted driving law, and we have asked staff to look into that as well.
That's why my video's off.
So,
Yes.
so like I said, I understand your predicament, but I know there are other working mothers that have no option to be late or to do that, and they have to get here. And that includes employees in this building in this county as well. So I think that we need to be respectful of that as
Member
well.
Chaplin, there is a labor shortage and we are in the middle of a pandemic. So when you were dropping off your children a long, long time ago, that wasn't the issue.
I never
So
had childcare
we-
for my kids.
So we have a labor shortage right now. So if you have any suggestions, which I am taking care of, but if you have any suggestions for a professional nanny that is willing to work, which you won't find out there, if you had young children right now, you would understand that. However, I am on time to my meetings at 8 a.m. I am here on Zoom. And there is a reason why that Zoom exception was made by the state. It is for people like me. And it is for future mothers who will hold public office here, for them. If that weren't the case, we wouldn't have Zoom exceptions for people. But I think
there
within
are-
my right to be on Zoom, and I would appreciate it if you could extend the courtesy to other mothers and women and not get the message out there that there is no room for mothers who hold public office. If our governor, who is a man who could do that, I'm sure you could do it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Covert. Member Ozog. Member DeCiani.
Thank you.
Oh, good. Good.
Okay, thank you. First of all, with this situation, we really are not able to dictate when people read their emails. So I would recommend all of us do have, I believe all of us have cell phone numbers for each other.
Mhm.
So a text would be appropriate. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Thank you, Member Ozog. Member DeCiani.
I would have to concur with Member Covert, although I'd have to argue that there are some dads like myself this morning that had a childcare issue, and Chairwoman Salmon was very accommodating. And I appreciate that, Ashley. It's not the first time it's happened with me. My wife is a nurse. She has to be up at 5. So when she's up at 5, I have to take Bree to school. So at the end of the day, I still want to be at the meeting. I might not be able to be there physically. So it's not only women, but it's men, and we should be accommodating. And if we need to change our rules internally here, then I think we should do that so that we can accommodate and don't put Member Culvert in a bad position, because the biggest job we have is being a parent, whether it's a mom or a dad. This is secondary, yet it's important, but yet, with technology, we could be at two places at one time. So I think it's important that we're open to that. And if we need to change our own policy on top of the governors to do that, I think we should. So thank you.
Thank you, Member DeSanti. Any other questions under old business or comments? Okay, Member Krajewski, go ahead, please.
Yeah, for your old business FY 22 budget, is that, okay, yeah, that's, so just, yeah, with regards to that, our budget discussion for FY 22, just, we had a little conversation about health insurance, maybe give Jeff some guidance. We have 4 million in the reserves, but do we take 3 million or 300,000, 342,000, the cost of the insurance, and have that go into the reserve budget for health insurance to keep it at 4 million? Because clearly we have plenty of sales tax money. So just some thoughts that we just keep our 4 million that we had in reserves in health insurance. So ask Jeff to put 3 million or 342,000, whatever that number is, into the health insurance reserve. So I would suggest that instead of just going down to 4 million, because we talked about, we were at 3 months ago, we were $10 million surplus in sales tax over budget this year. And if it continued on, we had to pay for Tyler, and we would do that. We did that today, but the last 3 months we've generated another 7 million. So, we're at 17 million, as Jeff pointed out today. Now it's 7 million because we did that 10 million appropriation. And I'm sure the next 3 months are going to continue way above budget. But the 342,000, just put that into the budget for fiscal 2022 into the.
It is.
So you're going to put it, so you keep
Yeah,
the reserve.
I took a prudent approach, or a conservative approach.
So you're going to keep the 4 million there if it's in the reserves?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And I
Thank
still
you,
think
Member
there's, I know Member DeSanti's made some comments. I mean, there's still room probably to do other things if people have thoughts for important programs for the county. There's still room to do stuff because we are going to have a very large surplus, and it appears we may have been very, very conservative in setting the top line number for next year's sales tax.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Any other questions under the budget? Oh, Member Garcia, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman Chaplin. Quick question on the budget, and I know the sheriff has his own budget. And I've been trying to get a meeting with Chairman Cronin for like probably over a month and a half in regard to the Just of DuPage program. And I'm just trying to figure out where that actually will, when that meeting will happen, but I'm trying to get funding for the salaries for Just programs, because I think that, yes, crime is increasing in DuPage County, most definitely, but I think we have to take also a proactive thing and try to actually solve the problem in terms of getting programs that help them to rehabilitate, so that it is not a revolving door into the jail. So I'm just trying to actually figure out when this discussion can happen. And so Nick.
So I'm aware of that, and I know that the chairman had that meeting lined out, I think, last week, but unfortunately it had to be canceled, postponed. I have talked to the sheriff. He is not looking for the Just DuPage to be covered in a 22 budget. He's looking for it to be covered in potentially future budgets, and that would be a discussion with the chair of HHS, the sheriff, if you're interested in that, the chair of finance, and we can do that, but it is not pertinent to the 22 budget for that, but that is a long-term future discussion that we have to do. So it's not time sensitive right now.
Okay, I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
Well, it would be time sensitive. The member wants to have more money put into figure out a way to get him the money. If that's what, she tends to do, I would meet with the sheriff, but if it's not coming out of his budget because he's using, whatever commissary funds for that, but maybe we want to give him some money. If there's something to remember, I would suggest go meet with the sheriff. But, if it's 2022, we can get money out of our budget if we feel that's appropriate, the majority of the board. To do that. So I would suggest meeting with the sheriff, and if you want to do something for 22, maybe we can do something. Yes, the sheriff's not moving it to us till 23 or 24, but he is paying money there. So I would go meet with the sheriff, and he got some ideas, maybe we give him some money from this surplus.
So Member Garcia, does that answer your question?
It does. I agree with Member Krajewski that I think we should have a discussion and things because I think, waiting another year might not solve the problem. And I want to make sure this program continues because it's got such success at this point in time.
So did you want to should we invite the sheriff here for, did you want to put him
Yeah,
on?
I would like to have as many people that are interested in this so we can discuss it and maybe see what the future is for this program and how we can make it continue to be successful.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, do we have any other old business? Any new business? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, who was that? Member Zay and second by Member Rutledge. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, see you guys in a couple weeks.